Okay, so today we're gonna do something really interesting, and um, I mean it's not going to be quick because I am going to basically walk you guys through the texture baking, like my way of texture baking, and I'm going to keep it super simple so that it's not too confusing. I'll try to keep it as slow as I can because we do have a certain time frame. But all right, let's get to it. MHCP Mentor Build Along. So today we're going to go cover color scheme optimization with myself. Uh, the skills matrix alignment will be art, subsection assets, the design and creation of static meshes for use as world environments or items, props, wearables, characters, including meshes and textures. So today is definitely a texture thing. Um, so important info. This session is recorded. Um, Mute yourself, but honestly, I welcome any kind of conversation and chatter. I definitely would like to. This one I would like to be more interactive. I want to know your thoughts, and if you have any questions, uh, feel free to raise your hand. Keep the questions concise. Share context beforehand. So if you post your questions within the chat, anybody can hop in and help out. That would be fantastic. And be active. Let's have a party. I'm all for parties. And fill out the survey at the end. Your input definitely helps. And lastly, tag me in the appropriate channels for any feedback. And try not to DM me because I am a pretty busy person, but I am always happy to help regardless. So you guys are amazing. I always like to keep this up, the levelers to success. We do have documentation. And for this specifically, if you want to cover anything as far as like texture types, if you haven't gone through that just yet and you're brand new, definitely the documentation is your road to success. Practice. The more you do, the more you retain. Hands-on experience is key. So definitely don't give up on yourself. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Uh, everybody within our community have some magic to spread, and definitely don't be shy, and just have fun. This is definitely fun times. Okay, and here we are, texture baking. Today, we'll learn how to create individual materials and bake them into one texture map. And this one is cool because this one will help you, number one, optimize to one texture. Let's say you have two items that have like procedural textures that you have created in Blender, and you could put it all on one texture map. So I'm going to show you simply how to do this, and hopefully you guys can make your magic happen. So let me get Blender going. And so the version of Blender I'm using is the 4.4, just in case. And let me know, you guys can see my screen correctly, right? Let me see. Okay. Now I'm gonna start simply. And of course, I should fix that, but for teaching's sake, I do like to leave that default cube there. Um, and a website I am going to refer to is one of my favorite websites to get any, like all things color schemes, is this colors.co. Here, and I'm going to just drop this link. So basically you can get multiple color palettes from here, and it's absolutely amazing. I'll keep it like this for now. All right. So basically any website like this that has like all of these, yeah, I know, coolers, any of these color swatches, I do like anybody who's a scripter has used these hex codes for their color schemes. And yeah, we're going to make materials out of this and make our own pretty much our own atlas with that. So let me just put this aside. Okie doke. So now let's set up our a stage basically. So I'm going to do Shift A, and first I'm going to create a plane, and I'm going to scale it up by pressing S, and here we are. Now I'm going to bring in my best friend, Suze. So I'm going to do Shift A, bring in my monkey, G, Z to bring that up. And I usually like to stage Suze a little better. So I'm going to do R for rotate, and then I'm going to rotate by the X axis. So it's nice. And there we go. So here is Suze. But she needs a little bit of color. So I'm going to do G, Z. Let's start thinking of the colors that, that will help Suze along. So first thing is we will need, oh, you want Suze to be green? Okay. So first thing we are going to do is we're going to pay attention to this materials tab. So I'm going to go ahead and click into that materials tab. But another thing that we need to do to prepare for this is this viewport shading. We're going to click on this third sphere up top. And so things start to look differently. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new material. Now, here is the fun part. So I'm going to go ahead and just label this green. And now what I'm going to do is I need to provide the hex code. So I already have this green color. I'm going to use this very color palette. I'm going to use that green color for this experiment. I'm going to go ahead and copy the hex code. Alrighty. And now I'm going to plop that in there. I'm going to do Control V to get that going and then enter. Now we have a nice green for Suze. But we also have to add in some more colors, and we'll get to that. We also have this brown color, and I'm going to go ahead and copy it and create a new material. And then I'm going to, oh yeah, radioactive. All right, there we go. And then I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep bringing in those colors. I have this really cool sage color. And I'm going to keep adding those materials. And honestly, like you could do this with textures, like visual textures. But in this moment, I just like to just do plain old shaders, because sometimes like we don't know what to do with these materials. We will need to basically bake them out. I'm just going to call this brown. I'm going to call this sage. Oops. Sage. Okay. And one more. I'm going to do this salmon color. Here we are. All right, cool. Very, very cool. So we're gonna actually I'd like a white for the peoples. So white and not peoples, but the eyes, and then black. Why not? All right, so we have a whole range of colors here, right? Now, how do we apply these colors to make this basically come together? So what we're going to do is we're going to go tab to our edit mode. And then we're going to start to pick and choose polygons to paint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this part, because this part's easy. The eyes. And I'm doing this manually because why not? Yeah, I could fix that. I probably forgot to press enter. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we want to assign this color. So going over to the materials tab, I'm going to go ahead and click on white, and then I'm going to press assign. Now, as you can see, the color has changed. So we're going to keep going. For example, now this part, it will be obviously, let me see if I press Shift Alt, what that does. Nope. Okay, that didn't go the right way. It's fine. It is fine. I'll get in there. Actually, another easy way to do that. So I'll just do this one side, black, and then assign. All right, cool. I could have also just clicked on these guys, and if I did Control plus sign, that actually selected everything within its radius. So then I do black, assign. Okay, now our fancy monkey is coming along. Let me just rename this salmon. There you go. All right. Well, definitely would like her nose to be a nice salmon color. And I definitely would like to see you guys experiment with this because this is actually quite fun. And I'll show you why. Okay, so I'm gonna click on this salmon color and assign. And this would be a good introductory to like all things like shader nodes. Like you can get really fancy and really really cool with the shader nodes. I'll do the ears too, because why not? Why not? Why not? Okay. Here we are. Awesome. Okie doke. So actually, what I'd like to do, and of course let me see. Yeah, no, I went the wrong way. That part I kind of struggle with. Sometimes I would like for, if I do the Shift Alt, I would like for it to go around the edge loops I'd like, but it's all a matter of edge flow. When you're building stuff, the edge flow has to be a certain way for a certain commands to work. Uh, Definitely don't get frustrated with that. But I would highly recommend trying that. Like the Shift Alt command is really helpful when you're trying to select an entire row of polygons. I'm gonna go ahead and assign. And you guys get the idea. Like this is basically coloring by polygons. Um, but I'm excited to show you what to do with this. Okie doke. Okie doke. And brown. Suze is looking fabulous. Okay. I think I could stop here for now. So now we have Suze and she's ready to be baked for now. But we also have this base here. It's super helpful when you are trying to like fill holes or try to find some disconnect too. That's usually what I use that for, is to find the disconnect in the edge loops because you know, that's the best way to understand your topology. And I'm pretty much a stickler for like good topology. But like that's up to you. It doesn't really matter. Topology, like good topology does matter in some sense, but it doesn't really matter when it's static objects. For example, if you have n-gons, absolutely fix those n-gons. But edge flow, meaning like, for example, this, well, no, that's not here. It should go front and back. This is good edge flow because it goes basically in order. right? The minute it starts to disconnect, like for example, it disconnects here, is because this is basically starting a new edge flow. You get what I'm saying? So sometimes that's really important. Um, where good topology is extremely important is when you're designing for, I'll explain in a second. Uh, good edge flow is really important for anything animation. For example, if you have proper edge loops within like joints, like let's say elbows, um, wrists, knees, like that's where topologies uh that's where good topology really is important, is when you start to actually animate items, you know, but we don't have to worry about that quite yet for now. uh a four-sided face, no, an n-gon is anything more than four sides. So for example, like if I were to take this loop and would just do control delete, this face would be an n-gon, right? And the reason why it would be bad for Horizon per se is Horizon will say, hey, you have two loose vertices, which is here. And it will decide to connect the vertices wherever it sees fit. So the vertices might end up in over there or something and connect it to another vert. You're gonna want to have total control of how your geometry goes as far as that. Um, I hope that made sense. More than four sides is very bad. That's all I have to say. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to assign a material to this plane down here. So I'm going to go ahead and use Sage. That's pretty decent. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start to think about how to bring all these colors together on one texture map. So if I were to go to UV editing, well, first off, I wouldn't see any colors because on this side, because a texture, an actual texture does not exist yet. So we have to actually make this texture. Another thing is we're going to need all of these items, all of these sections onto one UV square. So for example, if I were to do shift and select both these items in object mode, press tab to edit mode, and I'm going to go ahead and press A so that everything is selected. As you can see, everything is on top of each other, and that's not going to be good for any kind of texture baking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this fourth UV selection mode, which is like basically you're going to be able to select all islands. And I'm going to go ahead and select these islands. Now I'm going to press G and then X and just bring this over to the side. And usually what I like to do is just kind of like, whoops, scale it and position the items where it fits. And so you can absolutely just organize this however you want. Like for example, I could just take these two guys and just kind of like do this. It doesn't really matter. You know, it's you're basically optimizing and making sure there is enough room for everything. Like for example, I can absolutely fit another item within this UV square. Um, but it's just the plane and the monkey, and that's just fine. I'll just leave this like that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is the magical part. So, and this is definitely something to pay attention to because now we are going into the shader editor. I sometimes like to go to the shading tab, um, but honestly, I like to just work right onto the layout tab. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and just pull this over, and I just made a new window, right? And I'm going to just bring this to the side. Okie doke. So Then I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this window into an actual shader editor. And to get rid of this window, I'm going to press N as in Nancy. And now all I see is one principled BSDF with one color. If I were to basically go through all these slots, you can see all the multiple colors. So there's one thing that we need to do is we need to create the texture that that you have to basically bake these items on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, right click, add texture. Whoops, add texture. And I'm going to do just the regular image texture. And this image texture is what everything is going to be baking on. So for example, I'm going to click new and I'm going to name this Sue's bake, right? And this is another important part. I would like to set this to a 2K texture. 1024 is actually just fine for this, to be honest with you. But in this case, I will make it a 2K texture. And then I'm going to click new image. So now this is an actual texture, right? Right now it's blank. There's nothing in it. So it's going to come up black. So another important thing is now each one of these guys will need a copy of that new texture I created, right? So this part is super simple. I'm going to make sure this Sue's Bake is highlighted. I'm going to do Control C. And then I'm going to go into each color, Control V, Control V, and just make sure you do it all throughout. Control V, Control V, and one more, Control V. So now every single one of these colors has its own version of that one texture. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to just bring this over, making sure that these guys are all selected because this is really important. They're all selected, this being the main copy. I'm going to go over here. And now we're going to introduce you to basically the render tab. Also, another note is you have basically the output. You would also have to change the pixels in here, like 2048. Whoops. 2048. And we're going to keep this super simple. So I'm not going to do much setups with this. Now, Eevee, I wish it did, but it does not have a baking option. So we would have to go to cycles. Before we do anything else, though, I would like to save my file. It's very important to save once you have reached a certain milestone because things happen, things crash, stuff like that. Don't look at my desktop. It has been a nightmare. But save early, save often. Yes, exactly. Texture bake demo. And I am going to call this Sue's Bake Demo. Okay, cool. I was yelling save at my screen. Yes. Yes, make sure you save because it gets heartbreaking. Anyways, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to bake. So basically it's between both diffuse and combined. Sometimes you'll get a different you kind of get different results for each one you do. Hold on a second. Let me check on something really quick. Yeah, this time we're going to use diffuse. So I'm going to go to the bake type, drop down. I'm going to go to diffuse. And right now, what we want to actually capture is just the color, right? So I'm going to do turn those guys off in under influence contributions. and just leave color on. Okay. And now what we can do is basically everything is good to go. Or actually, before I do anything, I'd like to just, actually, no, that wasn't right. What I'd like to do is just introduce a new window and definitely get comfortable making your own layouts. Practice this part because it will really help you navigate the whole system. Right here on the upper right of this window is where you can change everything. And this time I'm going to go to UV editor and I'm going to go to this drop down here and I'm going to bring it to Sue's Bake. Now, Sue's Bake is basically going to be dark like this because there's no information on there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Bake. And as you can see, you have some things working. And there we can have it. We have just baked all of those materials we made in Blender onto one texture map. And honestly, like if you made a whole group of things together and you wanted it all on one texture map, you would basically Shazam! You would basically you would basically do it just like this. All you need to do is just kind of sandwich everything into one square and you would have like pretty much an optimal way of bringing this into Horizon. Now, let's take this a little further. Okay. Yes, it would once you start learning to bake textures together, it will definitely help you with optimization. It will help you with world performance because that's really truly important. So yeah, it will definitely help you with that. Okay, so now that we have the texture, right? I'm gonna go ahead and save this texture out because it is in your blend file, but it's not saved. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press Image, Save As, and I'm going to save it as Sue's Bake. Sometimes your settings would be on JPEG. Just make sure it's not on JPEG. Just bring it to PNG, and I'm going to leave everything as is, right? And I'm going to go ahead and save. Now, as I just saved that, you could have absolutely just did _BR and called it a day. But there's something I actually do want to do with that one texture. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring this over. I'm going to join left, join down. Okay, so right now, Sue's herself has all these materials attached to her. I'm going to go ahead and create a new material. Well, first off, I'm going to just take all these out, take these out here. I'm going to create a new material and I'm going to call this Sue's Bake. And then I'm going to go ahead and find that texture map. So I'm going to go to base color, click on the yellow dot, oops, and image texture, open, and I'm going to find my PNG that I just created. I do it this way. You don't have to do, you absolutely don't have to do this way, but I basically like to see what the colors look like before I do any kind of light baking. So right now we are going to kind of pivot right into light baking. It is so much fun. And when you bring it into Horizon, it's just like chef's kiss, right? So I'm going to go ahead and apply that one texture to Sue's herself. So I'm going to do the drop down and I'm going to find Sue's Bake. And there she is with all her colors attached. So let's do some magic. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this viewport shading. So now I can see that she's in the dark right now. She's kind of scared. She needs some light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Shift A and I'm going to do an area light because why not? G, Z, I'm going to bring that up. And as you can see, she's starting to light up really nice. Okay, so we're going to go over to this tab it's called data, but it has a light bulb, so it should lead you to the right direction. And I believe you could change the light type just from here. There you go, Marlena, you got it. But Sue, okay, I could probably help you with that in a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Let me get through this first, and then we'll do that afterwards. Okay. So I do like to use the area light first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bring this up. I can do, I don't know, 500 watts. I think 500 is okay. You have a good amount of shadow casting. I believe that you can bring up the size, and it really softens up that shadow. And right now my computer is like, let me work on overdrive. Uh, but anyways, so here we are. We have, I think this is a decent amount of light for Sue's. I'm gonna bring the size up a little more. That way it softens up that shadowing a bit. I do like me a soft shadow. Yeah, it truly does. It brings life to it definitely brings life to our pieces, you know? So okay, now how do we translate this lighting to horizon? Like we want total control of this lighting, right? So let's basically bake it in. So what I'm going to do is basically the same process, right? I'm going to go over, create that shader editor, right? I'm going to press N as in Nancy. I'm going to click on Sue's, and there we go. We have our principled BSDF with the actual Sue's Bake texture on it. So what I'm going to do is actually I should have selected both items. I believe, yeah, that should be good. So because these are both on the same texture map, selecting these two on its own will help you bake everything together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add texture, image texture, because we're going to create a new image texture for this next render, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click on new, and I'm going to call this Sue's is fancy, because why not? I am the master of my own world. So, and actually I can go ahead and do underscore BR. Okay. And new. All right. So now that we have that set up with the 2048 resolution, I'm going to go ahead and with everything selected, because we need to make sure Blender knows what we are baking. So then I'm going to go over to render. I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to do direct and indirect lighting, right? And don't forget to, because I usually like to see it working while it's working, so I know it's going well. I'm going to go to the UV editor, and I'm going to do the drop down to Sue's is fancy. I'm going to scroll out to fully see it there. Actually, I'm going to get rid of this bottom one because we don't really use this. Join down. Okay. Now that we have a little more real estate, I'm going to go ahead and click on bake and see what comes out. This is always the best part. You see here, there is a progress bar. This might take a little longer. I find it that if you had already combined the textures at first and then bake that texture, it cuts the time pretty much. So I would definitely recommend doing it that way rather than trying to do it all in one shot. As you can see, that bottom panel worked really well. And it's still working on Sue's. All right, so now Sue's herself is fully booked and ready to go. How much planning do you do when setting up lighting in a world compared to baked assets? How do, I mean, it really depends. It depends on what look you're looking for, you know. Um, I absolutely like lighting by hand in Horizon. I do kind of wish that the lighting engine was a little better. But it still works. It's still, you could still get like really magical results with the lighting, with like the static lights and stuff. And honestly, even when baking, you're still going to use that static lights because you're going to need your world to be lit up anyways. You're going to need your avatars to be reactive to those lights, not just the objects around them. Are normals going to uh, I've been begging for normals, so I don't know, I can't say, but just know I have been fighting the good fight for the normals for sure. Okay, so I'm going to do image, save as. Now it's going to say Suze is fancy underscore BR, and I'm going to go ahead and save. Okay, and so uh, join left, join down. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to go ahead and go back to this viewport shading. And as you can see, uh, Suze doesn't have any of that detail. So I usually like to see what's going on right in this materials tab. So I'm going to go ahead and uh, take this out, and do new. I'm going to just call this Suze is fancy. Whoops, I did all lowercase, I think. Forgot to spell fancy for a second. Okay, I'm going to go yellow dot, image texture, open, find that. And there you could see it worked. Like you have that baked, that baked lighting into that. And it looks absolutely like it just makes the most simple item basically come to life. So now let's see what this looks like in Horizon. This is the best part. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do file, export, FBX. Okay, I'm in the right. Okay, Sue's Bake Demo, export. Now let's go into Horizon. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up my, there we are, library. Actually, I don't think you have to click on the three dots anymore. Let's see. I have so many windows open. All right, so here we are. Uh, I guess I can use any of these new worlds. I forget what's in this one. We will find out. We shall find out. Oh, it's my flowers. Really pretty. Okie doke. So let's go ahead and bring in that asset. I'm going to go add new 3D model. I'm going to turn off those pivots. Okay, hold on a second. Where is my window? Okay, so here we are. I have my Sue's Bake Demo and Sue's Fancy BR. I'm going to go ahead and select both of those, click on open, and then press import. All right, loading. Okay, now let's drag this out. And there we have it. Suze is fancy. And as you can see, it has a certain look to it with that lighting. And you could absolutely play around with like the lighting color, the direction of the light, lots of cool stuff you can achieve with just that. What do you guys think? Isn't that neat? Oh yeah, really cool. You could do so many cool things just with you know, HTML colors, you know? Well, if you turn the light in the world down, it is for sure going to get dark. But you could start playing with emissives, like, you know, if you are privy to Substance Painter, you can absolutely start like plotting the emissives. You could start plotting the metals. You could absolutely do that in in Blender as well. I mean, really, like getting to know that shader editor will definitely benefit you and give you more freedom of what happens to these items. Trust me, this part, honestly, I have goosebumps because this part is my favorite part, you know, is the light baking. It's very cool, very fun. And you could paint with light, you know. It's just, yeah. I can't express enough how cool it is. So, yeah, I'm open to questions. Animated textures. I can absolutely tint the light. Animated textures should not be frowned upon, and I think it's encouraged to use them. I don't see why not. Animated textures are good. Yeah, you could absolutely tint the light. Uh, if we go back, neon lights. Oh yeah, absolutely. You could do neon lights. Um, I have not done them per se, but I know for a fact that you can do it. And I believe if I'm not mistaken, you can absolutely cast the lights. So maybe I'll do that little experiment right now. Right now, right now. So for example, it's been a while since I've made an absolute like emissive item. So give me 1 second. Let me bring back let me bring Sue's back to default. So I'm gonna do, oh, I might have to, no, that might be a little much. Actually, no, 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 I am fighting with myself, but no, it doesn't have to be that bad. So when you bake the animated objects, should we just bake the animated object by itself so the shadow won't be up there? Yeah, honestly, if you have animated items that rely on shadow, I mean, like let's say you're animating arms, limbs, and stuff like that. I don't think it would be that much of a deal if you do have some shadow casted. Like I would say don't don't make the shadows too strong so that you have a little more flexibility. Um, if that made any sense. But honestly, like I would say experiment like with as much as you can, you know, like make mistakes and sometimes like you'll find something super duper cool, you know. So I highly encourage it. Let's see, what am I gonna do? Beautiful mistakes. Make all the beautiful mistakes because, you know, um I'm trying to think of what I should do here. 'Cause you guys have me stumped, but not really. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a UV sphere, right? I'm gonna just scale this down. And the reason why I want to do it next to Sue's is we want to see that light emit onto Sue's. And that will be your indicator on like how well a neon light would work, you know, in this situation. But this time it would just be a glowy sphere. Okay. Now, what we're going to do, trying to think, because it might end up being a two-part process. For example, um, or maybe I should have just, you could fake bloom though. You can fake bloom. That's the thing. Like, yeah, you can fake the bloom, and that's basically what I'm getting at. Like, for example, I was just asked if you can tint the light. Like, for you can absolutely tint the light. So for example, I'm gonna go ahead to this guy, and let's say the world is like on a bluish undertone. It's totally gonna look like this in Horizon. So if you have blue lighting, yeah, you can just make it unlit. If you have blue lighting and stuff like that, it's definitely going to uh it's going to be reactive here. It's a matter of experimenting anyways. And let's say we take this guy, right? And I want to do something. Let's see. Maybe I'll still use this Sue's bake, but I'm going to take the UV and bring it to, I'm gonna scale this. I'm gonna bring it to this white color. And this is me like absolutely probably gonna make a huge mistake. It's all right. You'll see it live, guys. Live here. All right. So here we go. That sphere should be white. If I go back to layout, and of course it's white because yeah. Anyways, and now, mission. I'm gonna bring up the. Ugh, that was too bright. Too bright. Oh no, it's gonna do some weird stuff, isn't it? 0.5. No, maybe I'm going about it the wrong way. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've made one of these guys. Oh, I know what's happening. I'm reacting to the entire thing, so it has to be separate, and that's absolutely fine. So hold on a second. 0. Okay. Yeah. You hear me working here. So what I'm going to do is now I'm just going to call this light. And I would absolutely still like for this to be on the same texture. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the emissive. It's still not becoming unlit. I told you guys, it has been a while. It can be done though. Uh, base color alpha. Oh my gosh. You know what? I'll probably make a video on this because I have to poke around and there's not enough time to make this mistake. But anyways, it can absolutely be done with the texture baking. And for example, let's say we do have that sphere, which I'm gonna just get rid of it, to be honest. I'm gonna bring it to the side. You could absolutely use like another light, and you could do, I don't know, another area light. G X G Y G Z, and you could do something like that and like add your item, and you could also fake that bloom like that. And I could actually bring up this wattage a little more. So it's a matter of, right? Oh, is that it? Is that what I messed up? Hold on a second. Thank you, Mickey Ace. Let me tell you guys something. Mickey Ace is actually a pro. Don't sleep on him. Shader editor, let's go. Where are you? I deleted the principal BSTF on that one, I think. Light. There we go. Mission. Strength. No, it's not coming up. Yeah, no, I know. No, it needs its own texture. That's why. Yeah, yeah. I'll do that next time for sure. I just need to poke around some more, to be honest. Okay. So yeah, I have absolutely changed the lighting on the monkey with this main light. And then we have another light to emit some bloom from whatever object you have that's emissive. And we can go ahead and I'm going to go and create that new baked texture. So I could take this out and I'm going to do add texture, image texture, and I'm going to do new. I'm going to just call this blue light Suze underscore BR. And there. And with this selected and with those guys selected, I could just go ahead and basically you already have everything set up and go ahead and bake. You know, I I do sometimes stumble when I get a little nervous and like I don't have anything pre-planned. So, you know, it happens. I'm human. I am human. So let's see how this looks. I'm gonna go ahead and bring up this guy here and go back to UV editor. And as that is rendering blue light Suze, here we are. Let's see it work its magic. And as you can see, you have that light casted. And I would definitely highly recommend just creating a plane and pull up some walls, make a window, shine a light through that window, and you'll get a nice casted light from that window, like position your lights as such, and you can get a really cool result. And there we go. Now we have our new texture, image, save as, blue light Suze, save as image. Yeah, everything's good. I can go ahead and join left, join down, and this guy, new, blue light Suze, because remember, this has to be named properly for it to register into Horizon. Yellow dot, image texture, open, blue light Suze. I'm gonna go ahead and select that blue light Suze. And as you can see, this is what it's going to look like in Horizon. I'm going to go ahead and file, export, FBX. Yeah, I'm going to do demo 2 because it's 2 different textures. Okay, go back into Horizon. So basically, the naming convention in your materials has to match what's going into Horizon. You know, so right now the texture that is paired off with Suze is blue light Suze. So make sure that your material is set to that name and that your texture is set to that name. Oh, you could absolutely do that too, for sure. Like you could basically like zero in on the object that you want emissive and just make it emissive yourself. That's super simple. Another thing I like to do before I let you guys go, let me see this first and I'll show you what I like to do. Oh, nope, that's not it. Did I not bring it in? Hold on. Add new 3D model. Sorry, I had a quick brain blip there. Okay, blue light Suze. Import. Yeah, like you could totally take things into like Photoshop and like make some magic in there, or GIMP or Krita, any photo editing software. Uh even anything that does any filters and stuff, which I'm going to show you guys how to do because it really gives interesting results. All right, and so here you have it. You have some light baked into, you know, if something was emissive here, like maybe a magic orb, you could absolutely like emulate that there is a magic orb next to Sue's and have it float. But there's light casted. Like you could totally fake some bloom is, you know, is definitely something that would be cool. Now, I'm going to go open up Photoshop really quick because I want to show you one thing that I like to play around with. Where is my 2 seconds texture bake demo? And I'm going to use the first Sue's for this experiment. So Sue's is fancy. So you guys can totally see Photoshop, right? So let's say I wanted to play around with like filters and stuff for my character here. So I can go to filters and you can play around. I'm not going to get too fancy with filters. I'm like, but you can absolutely like change the levels and the strength of the shadowing and stuff like that, or the colors. You could, you know, change the colors and stuff. But I'm going to go here and it totally opened up in a new window. And this part is cool. Okay. So, I'm struggling, guys. I'm struggling. I probably have way too many items open. I'm gonna bring this down to 50%. Okay, so now you can take that texture and start playing around with like different ideas. Like for example, like this is like what is the style? Cell shading and stuff like that. You can totally use these textures and make a different look. For example, one thing I do like to play around with is where are you? Like you could do so many things with this. Brush strokes. No, no. There we go. I like this one. I like this one because it's become popular, this painter like painted objects. Especially like if you've seen the movie Flow where everything feels like a painting. You could kind of emulate this doing this, or you could like kind of like painted it yourself with like the smudge tool and stuff like that. Um, this is just kind of like another way to get like really creative and have hands on what you're doing with your textures. So I'm gonna just bring down the strength a little bit. I mean, it's gonna look a little funky, but really, it's a matter of getting creative and experimenting. But I think I'm okay. Eh, I think I'm okay with this look for the sake of this workshop. And as you can see, everything's kind of brushed in, right? So I'm gonna press OK. And um, I'm gonna just override the original uh thing. So I don't spend too much time on like naming conventions and stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and export that PNG. Do, do, do. Actually, Susan's no, I'm gonna rename this. I'm gonna just call this Suze's Fancy One. And I'm gonna leave this as Suze's Fancy, and then boom. Now let's bring that into Horizon and see what that looks like with that filter on there. Okay, so for example, I'm gonna go 3D model. I'm gonna find my guy here. And this would be Suze's Fancy. And then that bake demo import. So now let's see what Painterly looks like, because this can bring a whole new style. This can bring a whole new style to your worlds. Like if you did an entire world that was like Painterly and it's just like, you know, it would just almost be like, it would just be like walking into a painting, right, guys? Like, I don't know. I love like different art styles and stuff like that. Oh, I already brought it in. All right. So let's see what this looks like. And there you have it. I mean, it could be better. It could be better, but think about the possibilities of like changing the art style up, you know? Like you could do so many cool things. And you can experiment with different filters from different places, you know? So, yeah. Like now Sue's kind of looks fuzzy now, you know? And you could pretty much like, let's say you got even more fancy and just isolated those eye areas and the lips so that that stays put as far as like filter, and then you could just make everything else fuzzy. Like you have total control of what's happening. Even the shadow looks kind of like sketched in, you know? So think about like think outside the box, you know, like really get creative. Like this is your time to like make your own artwork be yours, you know, give your special touch to it. So yeah, definitely I can't wait to see what you guys make. Seriously, like be open to experiment and do funky stuff. Like you're not going to break Blender, you're not going to break your things. And if you're afraid of breaking your item, make sure you save versions of your pieces so that you can mess it up and you still have a backup, you know. And yeah, um yeah any more questions before we sail off to creative land? Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome, and thank you for coming. Alrighty. I am going to pack this for you guys so you guys could play around with it yourselves with what I already have. Uh, so I'm gonna go ahead and file. Oh, and another thing, if you are you're welcome. If you are sending files with textures between you and a collaborator, this part is really important. You go to File, External Data, and you click on this automatically packed resources. Now, every time I update a file and it's already on, I usually kind of like click that off and on again so that I'm sure that everything is already packed in there. So I'm going to do File, Save. And now everything, like all the textures I created and attached to Sue's, is within this file. That's just kind of like a tidbit for anyone who is collaborating with a friend. It's really important to have. So I'm gonna go ahead and pack this for you. I'm gonna drop this and definitely give me emoji once I know you have downloaded this package I made for you. And yeah, I hope this workshop was super duper helpful. And yeah, I can't wait to see some texture and light baking in your worlds. This is going to be great. This is definitely a step towards a really visually stunning world. You're very welcome. Very, very welcome.